So after putting the crankshaft in yesterday, the bearing cases go on the crankshaft, and then the crankshaft slides in through the end of the block, and this is obviously the flywheel side. And in the instructions it tells you when you put the bearing cases back on, there's a serial number printed on them, and that faces out towards the flywheel. And I've done that with these three, and then put the bolts in that hold them down. But this last bearing cap, if you notice, it's got threaded holes right here along the outer edge of it. And on the inside of it, you can't see it right now, but it doesn't. Those holes are blind. And they take the cover with the rear main seal over it. Well, the problem that I'm having is those threaded holes are supposed to be facing out, but the serial number that's printed on that case is on the inside, not facing out to the flywheel like it should be. I turned it around because in the manual you can clearly see that those holes are supposed to be facing out, and I'm a little confused. I don't know if they stamped the numbers on the wrong side of this set or what happened. If I have them all backwards, I'm not quite sure. So, but until I start putting push rods in, or connecting rods in, I'm going to go ahead and build the pistons and rings and everything, and then before, like I said, before I install all this, really kind of take a look and ask some questions and see what's going on. But you can clearly see that right here it says reassemble the bearing cases to each other by lining up the numbers on each half. The numbers should be the same on the top and bottom half and face the numbers towards the flywheel. And I did that, but like I said, those holes would be on the inside, and that doesn't make any sense because the flywheel goes right here. So I don't know what's going on. So, but anyways, let's get to this part. So when you're setting up your piston rings, before you put them on your pistons, you want to check the gap in between them. And the way to do that is by installing them in the block and then going with a feeler gauge to try to see what that number is. And the number can be anywhere between, I think, 30 and 0.30 and I don't know, 4.5 or something like that. So what you do is, you see there's a little, it says top on it. You're going to install that way, so they're going to be facing the top. So you just slide a ring in here like this, flip it down, and then with a piston, you just slide the piston in here a little ways till it's lined up, till it's parallel, like it is. And then come here with a feeler gauge, and I have the 0.30, it's a 0.305, so 0.30, and it fits right in there. Okay, so once you have that, I have a little burr on the end of that thing, but so it fits in there nice. There you go. So I know that that is the right size. And then we're going to go ahead and do it with the C ring, which is the top ring. We're going to do the same thing, check the gap. And with these oil rings, you don't really check the gap. I suppose we do, but I don't know. Let's see what it says on the manual. Oh yeah, oil ring. So 0.25 to 0.45 go. Yeah, so that is, yeah. So they're all 0.25 to 0.45 millimeters. So that is what we're going to check that at. And then I'll show you how to install them on the piston when we're done. Like I said, when you're installing your piston rings, there'll be a number or word or a top, serial number or something at the top of the ring that you want facing up the top of the piston. These rings also have their logo on them, and if you'll notice on my oil ring, the logo is right there. Where'd it go? Yeah, the logo is right there because there is no, it doesn't say top anywhere. So I'm just going to face all the logos up. This one here says top, so I'm just going to face all the logos up. And when installing the rings, I need two hands, but you just kind of feed it on from the back side of the ring and just go around and start spreading the ring open as it slides on the piston. It's kind of pain to do. They have special tools that go in here and widen that. You could just slide it over, but I don't have that, so we're going to do it the old-fashioned way and just slide it on. So let me get that done and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, another thing I want to point out when installing these rings is if you look on this oil ring, you can see that spring. See how that comes apart? You want that gap 90 degrees from this gap, so you want it down on this side. So you can it's harder to do it when it's on the piston, but you can just spin this ring, spring inside that ring, and get it on the other side. And then once you put them on the piston, you want these gaps, all three of them, 90 degrees apart from each other. So if I'm going to put this piston here, or this ring here, I'm going to run this one, the next one here, and then the next one here. So have them 90 degrees from each other, and then the gaps don't line up. So that's the way you do that. So I'm going to install this last rings on these pistons, and then we're going to go ahead and put them on the connecting rod. Alright, now that I got the connecting rods installed in the pistons, just make sure when you're putting in your wrist pin, just put some assembly lube on there. Just because at initial startup, everything's going to be dry, so it'll get some nice oily stuff on your wrist pin, and you're good to go. These being new pistons, they can go in either direction, because if you're going to reuse your old pistons, they should go in the same cylinder and they should go the same direction. But these ones are new, so I just made sure that the connecting rod, the serial number that's on it, they match the top and bottom cap, and then they all face the same direction, and the STD label is on the same side as the number. I don't know if that's all necessary, but that's just the way I did it. So now all pistons and connecting rods are facing the same direction. Alright, so this is what I found out. This definitely has to be facing out this direction. These threaded holes are needed. So even though the stamp number is on the inside, it's supposed to, this is the right orientation. So we're going to go ahead and start to put in the pistons, and I'll get to that in just a second. First thing you're going to want to do is, like I said, I had mine sitting aside so the caps are off. Now remember the serial number that's stamped on the side is going to match up with this one, and they're both going to be facing up this direction, facing the injection pump. So first thing you're going to want to do is grab some assembly lube and put a nice good glop on there. This is some really thick stuff, and just get it in there nice and liberal. Okay, and then I gotta go get this set up on the block, and I'll show you what's happening next. Okay, next thing is you're gonna insert the piston in the cylinder, making sure that the gaps on the rings are 90 degrees apart. So one's here, next one's over here, third one's over here, so the gaps are apart. Now I gotta get my ring compressor, install that, and show you how to put it in. And once the ring compressor is on, you should be able to see the liner, the sleeve on the cylinder, all the way around, which we do, so we know I got the rings compressed far enough. And then with a wooden hand, well, first thing I do is orient the crank lobe all the way down, so that when I when I start pushing this in, it's not going to make contact with it until I want it to. So we're going to go ahead and put this in. So hang on. Alright, with the crank all the way at the bottom, once you get the piston in there flush, the spring compressor will fall right off. Just come over here and just hold your hand in here and support the rod. And then and with a hammer or the end of a mallet, just tap on it. It'll slide down pretty easy, and just guide it onto the crankshaft with your other hand. And once it's on, put the end cap on and you know, snug them down. We got to torque those in a second, but I'm just going to throw these other two in real quick here, and then we'll get to the torque. Okay, there they are installed. All labels are facing the same direction, and all labels are facing the same direction on the connecting rods. So I'm going to go through here and torque these down. I got to look in the book to see what the torque specs are, and we'll get to work. Alright, so I went around and did the connecting rods. It's 26 to 30.4 foot-pounds, and I went like 29.5 on every one of them. And then for the where is it? The bearing case bolts, they want 50.6 pounds, 47 to 50.6 pounds. I went like 49.5 on all three of those, and these are here. Okay, so we're all torqued up, everything's ready to go. Alright, so I dug out my the bearing cover, and that's this piece right here. And as you can see, it has a seal in it. I had knocked the old seal out, came apart when I did it. Just knocked it out from the outside. I just put a chisel inside that ridge and just tapped down on it a few times. It popped out pretty easy. Then I laid the new seal, the felt side facing out, laid the new seal on the counter, and I just put a little bit of oil or grease or something around the out edge, and then I put the cover over the seal, tapped on it a few times with a rubber mallet, and then I hit it the rest of the way with a rubber mallet. It slid in nice and easy, and then that's the way it goes. So as I was saying before, how these threaded holes have to be out, and they do, because what happens is you put the cover on, and I don't remember which way it went. I'll figure that out in a minute when I have two hands, but it goes on, and then the outer holes line up with the holes on the block. The inner holes line up with the holes on these bearing caps. So I'm going to go ahead and find the hardware for that and start installing that, and I'll show you that when I'm done. Alright, I put the bearing cover back on. It comes with two gaskets, one for the inner one and one for the outer one. And if you look at yours very carefully, now I'm sideways because the motor's laying on the side, but these two bolts here are closer together than any of the other two bolts. So I knew that's the way the cover went on. And I put these inner ones in first, because that goes on that bearing cap. And then once that's on, you can actually physically turn this a little bit to line these bolts up to where they gotta go, and then put those on. So now I'm going to torque them down. Alright, that's it for today. I get everything torqued down. Everything's in that I wanted to be in today. So we'll get back at it tomorrow. Not quite sure what end of the motor I'm going to hit next, but I'll read my manual and see what I got to do. So until next time, please rate, comment, subscribe, and have a great day.